Hi, my name's Nadia Latif. I'm the director of The Man in My Basement, which I guess is a film about a man down on his luck, about to lose his ancestral home, and a white man turns up at his door and offers him a kind of impossibly great deal. Little does he know that he's kind of going to find himself at the root of all evil in the process. So I read Walter's book 20 years ago. I found it on a table at university and picked it up because I thought the title was cool and the cover art was pretty great. And it's stayed with me ever since. I've found it to be such a knotty, weird, wicked story, but also like really getting to the root of some huge ideas. And so when I heard that there was a kind of film adaptation in the offing, I was like, get me in. This is me. This is what I'm here to do. You know, I had like a very clear take, and I think that was partly because I could remember reading it, remembering how I felt, and I wanted to recreate that feeling for a cinema audience.
The only work we did together was saying, "Wow, this would be a great director for this film. Let's do that." And then that was it. We didn't. I wasn't on the set. The rewrites happen. I mean, I wrote, she rewrote. That was it.
You know, Walter always says that his book is on the shelf, and actually, that's a very freeing thing to hear as a director. Of sort of take what is useful to you, take what is communicated well in a different medium, but also like have fun with it and find yourself in it. So I feel like I now sort of live inside of Walter's book. But yeah, I think it was, and writing and rewriting, I've sort of stopped being able to distinguish between Walter as the book and Walter as the man. And I sort of realized that I could just like send him an email and just ask questions constantly, like what books would be on Charles's shelf and what music would he be listening to, and it was incredibly fruitful.
So I'm Corey Hawkins, and I play Charles in The Man in My Basement. I came across the book when I was, I think maybe in high school, and it was on my grandfather's shelf. I remember picking it up, and I think the thing that gripped me the most about the story was how familiar it felt in terms of this beautiful community, like these Black working professionals. I grew up in Washington, D.C., which was Chocolate City, back when I grew up. And so to have a story that deals with that gives brings humanity to that, but also kind of unearths a lot of the trauma, the mental illness, and also sort of family history and legacy, and really sort of diving into that unapologetically was like sort of a dream come true. But Charles at the top of the film, I think, is a bit adrift. And I kind of look at him in this sort of state of, and we spoke about it a lot, but he's sort of unable to move emotionally, physically even. He's sort of in a state of mental paralysis. And that's with his relationships, that's with life, on the brink of losing his ancestral home in this incredible historic Black enclave in Sag Harbor. A mysterious stranger shows up at his door with this very strange offer. But he also, in his basement, also has a lot of history and a lot of legacy that Narcissus helps him to sort of unearth and like open his eyes to. And I thought it was just a crazy, wild, weird, beautiful exploration with this crew, and something you just jump into wholeheartedly,
I never think about characters so much as I think of the whole thing. And the beauty of this is the way it's constructed in a very graceful way. You get to really dive into some really interesting things about power, about identity, a deep dive. But so there's like a feeling of you really testing some of your thoughts and some of your notions. But it also works dramatically because it's set up beautifully. This guy comes in, it's a deal, it's odd. They form a special relationship that is conditioned by the circumstances. And at the beginning, it's quite cordial and they're trying to figure it out. And then as they get more intimate, it gets a little scarier because they both have things that they really haven't dealt with. And it's through their relationship and through the situation that this stuff gets unearthed. And it's done in a very incredibly clever and organic way, I think, and brings you to a place of a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, this is a story of two pretty tortured men, but Narcissus, I think, represents a light for Charles. She comes in and she's like, but hey, you have this thing that you've literally been sleeping on. So there's this path forward here. There's hope here. There's maybe some romance here too, maybe, but really you have this way forward. And I really love that she represents so much compassion and hope and possibility, because he's been in a really dark place for a really long time.
I think also I was really interested. Sag Harbor actually as a place was founded by black women, and when you visit it, it feels like women. Like I don't know if they like all got together and killed off their husbands, but it just feels like it's all these women like running this town and preserving its history. And I was very interested. Obviously, you know, Corey and Willem are kind of in the forefront of the film, but actually this idea that women are there running this place and actually preserving what it is and are responsible for how we'll move forward. They often don't have a lot of time for Charles. Often they're kind of telling him about himself, but that actually it's, you know, it's a side of him that he could tap into if he chose to, which he should.
Yeah, and it also, you know, the sort of absence of that matriarchal figure, right? Also the absence of the women, the loss of the women out of these men's, you know, this man in particular, his life, I think is sort of starts to, you know, drive a little bit of whatever Charles is wrestling with. Yeah.
I think I was really actually influenced at the time when I was working on the script about friends of mine who had lost both their parents. Both my parents are alive and well. And I was sort of fascinated what it meant to suddenly be untethered to the sense of all your family who came before you. And I know it is something that lots of people, I mean, everyone will go through at some point. But actually I was just interested in the idea of a boy who didn't get over it, and that is his greatest trauma, is losing his parents, and what it really means to be the last of your family and to have nobody else out there who will, you know, care for you when you're old.